Expect a total mobilization on our part.
Remember Anonymous? The mysterious anti-establishment group that hacks into and shuts down the websites of churches, corporations, and governments.
We are now privy to many of Stephen Harper's most cherished secrets.
Well, now Anonymous is directing its venom toward ISIS.
Neutralisation des terroristes.
Operation ISIS actually began after the Charlie Hebdo massacre.
As for ISIS, we will hunt you.
As of today, Operation Paris claims it has flagged about 20,000 Twitter and YouTube accounts that the companies then make disappear. Social media is a crucial tool for ISIS, where it posts its propaganda, even those ghastly videos, raising money and enticing new recruits. But here's where Anonymous gets really controversial. It doesn't just shut down accounts, it's known to publish personal information about the people it targets. It's called doxing, a 21st century way of outing someone for their activities online.
We will not forgive.
In this case, Anonymous has been more cautious, passing on information about people they suspect have a connection to ISIS to the media for them to verify and reveal. Still, there are concerns innocent people could be targeted. Gabrielle Coleman, so this can be tricky. Last June, Anonymous hacked into Canadian government websites to protest the anti-terrorism bill, C-51, as an attack on civil liberties. But if Anonymous risks exposing innocent people, isn't that an attack on civil liberties?
No, it is. And when they're in a kind of experimental mode like that, you know, these problems can really cause problems. And social media is only something that amplifies these problems, right? Even independent of Anonymous, we actually saw this with a young man, a Sikh man, who was photoshopped as being a terrorist. And this had nothing to do with Anonymous, but it was picked up by the media, and also tens of thousands of Twitter accounts were retweeting this. So we live in an age where bad information can really have the ability to circulate so fast and so quickly that it can really hurt a targeted person when that information is false.
It seems that since the Paris attacks, that some people are now open to relying not just on governments or militaries to retaliate. Has the mood changed?
It's been interesting to watch as someone who studied Anonymous for so many years, because they're kind of inherently controversial. They like to stir the pot of controversy themselves. But this is one instance where a lot of people are paying attention and seem to be intrigued or excited and less judgmental. I think because, you know, terrorism is so violent, there's loss of life, and so people get excited by anyone who's sort of trying to fight it, even though it may be, you know, not necessarily productive and even slightly counterproductive as well.
You've seen some of these ISIS accounts online. What's the appeal?
The ISIS accounts?
Yeah.
Well, many of them are in Arabic, so I don't speak that, so I'm not sure. But, you know, I've read quite a bit about the use of online media by ISIS, and apparently they're really good at tapping into youth sentiment, portraying themselves as revolutionary. There's a kind of sexiness to what they do. And so in many ways, they're tapping into the present, the contemporary. Yes, they reach a different population. They're not necessarily trying to go for every young person in Paris, but nevertheless, the messages are ones that are about revolution and excitement in a different world and a different life. And these are absolutely relayed on Twitter and their videos as well.
So do you think that ISIS is scared by the anonymous threat?
You know, they did send out a kind of communique where they, on the one hand, called anonymous idiots, literally. And on the other hand, they also gave a little bit of advice, like, don't click on suspicious links, right? And so on the one hand, I don't think that they're inherently threatened, but nevertheless, it is a nuisance. And I think that one of the biggest threats that can come from groups like Anonymous or GOSEC is if their Bitcoin reserves, this is a cryptocurrency of which they have, quite a bit of money. If those are hit and that money is taken, that can be a bigger blow to their actual resources. So I bet they are trying to absolutely avoid that.
Tell me more about that. That's interesting.
Well, it's a little bit or a lot more difficult to steal someone's Bitcoin wallet than it is to, obviously flag a Twitter account or take down a website. So it takes a lot more skill, but nevertheless, this is where the smaller hacker group of, a small team made up of people who are experts and who are willing to work on this problem over the long term, they might be able to do it. And so in that sense, I do think it's at least theoretically, a real threat.
How serious a threat could that be, do you think, finances?
People have raised it on the chat channels. They've discussed it. It's not part of the official plan of action, which they publish, but certainly for GhostSec, they have talked about it, and it does seem like it would be something, it would be a tactic that they would absolutely pursue.
So out of all of this, what's most interesting to you?
In this case, what's interesting to me is actually the participants who are attracted to this operation, which is now called Op Paris. My sense is that on the one hand, you have long-term people anonymous who are willing to provide infrastructure, but on the other hand, it's attracted a new type of population. There are those geeks and hackers who come from the military world or those who support the military. And I suspect that they are participating in greater numbers in an operation like this, and they normally wouldn't touch Anonymous, right? And then finally, I also noticed that there were people logging in from places like Syria saying, I'm from Syria, ISIS is, causing total harm here. How can we help? And so it really is a weird motley crew, as is usually the case with Anonymous's operations, but especially so with this one.
So interesting. Gabriella Coleman, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.